Hey everyone, it's the Ioniq guy. In today's video, we're going to do a deep dive into the CCNC software system here in the 2025 Ioniq 5. Maybe you just bought one of these cars, maybe you own a Kona electric or a Kia EV9. The system is mostly the same between Hyundai and Kia. Genesis is going to be a little bit more different. They use a different operating system. So if you guys want to go on an in-depth walkthrough with me, then stay tuned. So for those of you who don't know what CCNC stands for, it's Connected Car Navigation Cockpit. Just a mouthful of words there, but it's Hyundai's infotainment system for their cars. It's basically across the lineup now, EVs, gas cars, it doesn't really make a difference. Obviously, the gas cars probably have a few less settings than the EV, but we're going to walk you through everything in today's video, so let's jump in. Okay, so here we are on the main home screen here in your car's infotainment system, and while we have this wide shot, I want to show you guys this bottom row of buttons here. So this is going to be pretty familiar to anybody who's driven a Hyundai, Kia, or Genesis car in the last, I don't know, decade or so. But down here, you're going to first start with the power/volume button. So obviously you can adjust your volume there. You can press and hold, which will bring up a screensaver. We'll show you those settings. You can pick different things there later. And then if you press that again, it brings you back to the home screen. If you give it one quick press, it brings up your media options. So you can quickly change between FM, AM, Sirius XM, or Bluetooth audio. Next button is going to be your home button. That will always bring you back to this default screen, the first page. You can see the page markers down below. So say you're a couple pages over, you hit home, it brings you back to that screen. Pretty straightforward. Next is going to be your map button. When you press that, that will bring up your map so that you can navigate. You can choose through searching different destinations, but we will go through that in a future separate video. Pressing the search button will bring up a way to search for destinations, EV charging stations. You can see on the sidebar right here, you'll have a few of your most recent destinations. And then like if you want to look at EV charging stations, you just press that button. And then it will give you some close options. We will go through this in a future video just dedicated to the navigation system. The next two buttons are going to be seek and track. So you can go forward, you can skip a track, you can go back a track. Pretty straightforward there. The next button is going to be media. And if you have your wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay set up, this will bring you to that screen. Or just like when you press the volume button, you can choose between FM, AM, XM, or Bluetooth audio. The next button here, the star, is a custom button. So you can set it up to do all sorts of different functions. So I have it set to bring me to the electric vehicle screen, which is where you'll find all your EV settings. But if you long press it, it will then give you the option of changing it. So you can see it used to be a much shorter list, but they've really added a lot more functionality to it. Wi-Fi hotspot, map, quiet mode, display, the home screen, phone projection. There's just a lot of stuff you can do in here. So it's really nice that you have the option. And then new for this year is a dedicated setup button, which is really appreciated. It brings you right to your settings screen so you can change anything you want to with just a tap of a button. You used to have to go to the home screen, find the button for settings, and then that would bring you there, but no longer. Now, if you long press that, you can change the functionality of either volume and power being over here or browsing media, map, zoom in and out. So you can swap that so that if you want this to do the browse media, map, zoom in and out, it can be on the left side. Or if you would prefer to have your volume on the right side for whatever reason, you can do that. But if you go back to the map, you can see that you can zoom in and out with that knob, which is actually pretty cool. Okay, so now it's swapped that, so I need to hold that to change the functionality. So we'll swap that back and then we'll go home. So we kind of already talked about the custom button here. There's also a custom button here on the steering wheel that you can change to do some other things just like that button. It's pretty much all the same functionality. You can also change the mode button on the steering wheel, which is right here. So you can have it go to certain audio settings that you would like Bluetooth audio, sounds of nature, FM, AM, whatever. You can change the functionality of this button here on the steering wheel. So you can change between favorite stations and channels or frequencies if you're using FM or AM radio. I don't use FM or AM radio, so I leave it set to scroll through channels and tracks. And then we already kind of went over the volume and tune knob setting. So there's lots you can customize here to get it to your liking. We're back on the home screen. You can see there's three boxes here. You have weather, map, and your media. Now, I've kind of made this how I want it. So you can move things around by simply long pressing, and then you can shift things however you want them. You can even go to the other pages if that's what you want to do. I don't necessarily want to do that, so I'm going to drag that back to that first page, put that back in the middle. So besides that, moving those around, you also have a settings screen, or as they call it, quick control, that you can pull down from the top, just like in iOS or Android. You can have whatever quick settings here that you want. So one that I have here is the beep sound. So if you don't want it to beep every time you change something, you can simply turn that off. That's not there by default. So if you do want to change these around, click the little cog up there, and then you'll see all the different settings that you can bring in and out. Now, you are limited to how many you can have on that screen. So say I want to add quiet mode. If I hit that, it says not enough space to add cards to quick control. So I would have to remove tone, hit quiet mode, hit done, and now I have the quiet mode setting right there. And you can also click that little arrow up, and that will hide that. So from here, you can also click on your name, and there's some other settings to get to reordering things. You can set it back to factory default, which I don't want to do. You can go into your profile settings, so you can see details like your profile image, which you can change. If you do want to change it to a custom image, you can do that through the My Hyundai app. When you go to your user page, you can then upload whatever photo you want. I have my logo. Or you can also change user, so if you want to go to driver 2, you can do that. So you can have 2 drivers plus 1 guest that you can have dedicated settings for when they are driving your car, and it will automatically change the seat settings, all the menu settings and everything. What's nice is here you do have some quick settings, so if you want to navigate to your house, just press that button. If you have your workplace set, just press that button. If you want to find EV chargers, just press that button, and then it will show you what is nearby. So looking at weather, you do get a brief forecast of the days ahead. Scrolling over, you can see I've rearranged these. I have phone projection over here, so if I did have my phone paired for wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, clicking that would bring me there. I don't have that turned on right now because I'm using my phone as the camera. But the EV settings here are probably going to be your most frequently visited outside of CarPlay and Android Auto. So first off, you will see it shows you your battery percentage. Clicking on it, you do get a visual representation of your car and your battery percentage. It does also show you the closest EV charging station, and it shows you your current range, whether you have climate on or climate off. You can see with climate off, I would gain 4 miles of range. These are interactive as well, so if I press that, it should bring me to the map screen where I can then navigate to that charging station. Now, this little button down here will show you your driving range. So it'll show you if you drove on, let's say you got on 95 and started going around Boston towards Maine. It shows you how far you could get out before your battery would be dead. Now you'll see there's 2 pages. If I scroll over, this honestly to me is a more useful screen to look at, but you do see your electricity use here on the right. So you'll see right now the drivetrain used 4% of what this previous drive was, which I only went probably a few hundred feet. The electronics are using 560 watts right now. Climate's using 1.4 kilowatts. Battery care, which is battery conditioning mode, is not using anything. Something that is nice is here where it shows you the closest charger. It shows you how many chargers at that station are available. So right now it says 0 of 2 are available. So there's no availability at that EV Go station. Now, no matter which screen you're in here in CCNC, if you have media playing, this box down in the lower right will display that media. You can click on it and then you can play or pause it. Now here on the electric vehicle screen, there's also 3 other tabs down below. So this is the first tab with those 2 screens. Clicking the second one, you can see more detailed electricity use. This EV range history is kind of a new screen for the 2025 Ioniq 5. I need to look at it more because I'm not really sure what it's trying to show me here. Distance to empty over odometer. Yeah, I don't really know how this is useful, but I'll have to play with that more in the future. And then you have charge efficiency history. When you click on that, you can see all your most recent drives and the efficiency that you got on it. So you can see on some of these longer drives from the road trip, I was averaging in the low 2s. Now that I'm back in Boston and doing some pretty short drives during the day, you can see it's in the high 1s, low 1s even. But yeah, this is a useful screen if you kind of want to look at your efficiency history. Now, going here to this third little screen is where you will set your morning departure time if you want climate control to start and warm the car up before you get into it without having to remotely do it from the My Hyundai app. So you can set your departure time, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You can set your cabin temperature, whether you want front defroster on or off, and then what time you want that to take place. You hit OK, and that saves it. So you can have two of those times. I guess one would be for when you leave your house in the morning. The next would be when you are leaving work to go home. So that is cool that you can have two separate ones. Unfortunately, here you can't set whether you want seat warmers, the heated steering wheel to come on. You have to start the car from the My Hyundai app if you want to do those types of things. So you do have that option, but it should be built into this, but it's not. So here's where you can also turn on scheduled charging, as opposed to on this screen here. And you can also select how quickly you want your level 2 charger to charge the car. So this car is capable of charging at up to 11 kilowatts. If you wanted to charge at 90% of 11 kilowatts, it would be 9.9 kilowatts, and 60% would be 6.6 kilowatts. So the only time that I would say this is going to be useful is if you need to charge slower. For example, at my apartment complex here, our chargers output 5.9 kilowatts. Now, sometimes if I were to plug in the late afternoon, it would finish in the middle of the night if I left it at 100%. So sometimes if I want to charge and finish in the morning before I start getting idle fees from sitting at the charger with it plugged in, not actually charging, I will slow it down to 60%. This way it will take longer. Now, if you have a level 2 charger at your house that is set up to utilize a certain amount of a circuit, then just leave it at 100% and the charger will dictate how much output actually goes to the car. You don't have to play with any of these settings. Next up is charging limit. So this is where at a DC fast charger, you would set your limit. For most trips, you're going to want to either be at 70 or 80%. Once you go over 80%, the charge time takes significantly longer. Next up is going to be your AC charging level. So they're both separate. I usually leave them both at 80% unless I'm going on a long drive, in which case I will turn that up to 100. This way I can get as much range as possible. And it is best practice to charge to 100% at least once a month. This helps balance the cell voltages out and gives the car the most accurate range estimate. Next up, electricity use settings. So when you are using the vehicle to load function, be that through the external adapter on the NACS port or through the adapter under the rear seat, you can change what level it would run down to. So it's only available between 80 and 20%. Obviously, if you have a 100% battery, you can still use it, but you can set it to stop discharging at 80%. So one more little page here. So this is an important screen. This is where you can manually activate battery conditioning. This is a very sought after function that previous Ioniq 5 owners don't have, but people who own the new Kona electric Kia EV9 do have this function. And basically what it does is when it's below 70 degrees outside, you do need to warm the battery to get full charging power. If you have a cold battery, you are not going to have a good time. So when you're road tripping, whether you're using the built-in navigation system or this manual button, you need to activate battery conditioning well before arriving at your charger. So when it's around freezing, it's going to take about 45 minutes to warm the battery. If it's closer to 15 degrees, Fahrenheit, 20 degrees Fahrenheit, it's going to take almost twice as long. So just keep that in mind, but this is a really useful setting. You're going to use it a lot if you do road tripping in the colder temperatures. And we will talk more about this at length in a separate video. Next up is utility mode. So basically what utility mode is for is if you want to use the low voltage functionality of the car for an extended period of time. And basically what it does is it couples the high voltage battery to the 12 volt battery that's actively powering everything, and it will keep it charged. If you don't activate utility mode, it will discharge the 12 volt battery over time. So when you're gonna just say sitting here for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours with the air conditioning running, activate utility mode. It's gonna say activating it, and then it's engaged. Now, a new feature for this year, you can dim the interior lighting. It says dims display brightness and interior lighting in utility mode. When touching the turned off display while dim interior lighting setting is on, the display will turn on and automatically turn off after 10 seconds. So if it does sense that it is dark out, it assumes that you're just sleeping in the car and you want to dim the screen and everything. So that's a cool little setting right there. Once you're in utility mode, the only way to get it to turn off is to turn the car off and then turn it back on. Next up, smart regeneration. Automatically adjusts the braking intensity when regenerative braking is set to auto. So auto is going to be when you hold the right paddle shifter down, and then the car will adapt to your surroundings, the terrain, and it will adjust the amount of regen that the car is providing. Now, I prefer to not use auto, but if you do use auto, you can have either faster deceleration, normal deceleration, or slower, smooth deceleration if you have people who might get motion sick. I always like to have the most deceleration when I'm using regen, so I keep it in the faster deceleration mode. But it says decelerates strongly by controlling regen braking intensity according to the speed of and distance to the vehicle ahead. So in a future video, I'm definitely going to play with the auto regen setting a lot more because I want to see if they've improved it versus the 2024 Ioniq 5 and earlier. Next up, charging started voice alert. Some of you might like this. When you plug in and the car starts charging, it will just say charging started or charging unsuccessful. So I like to keep that off, but there's 3 volume levels. I find low to be completely sufficient, even if I did want to use it, but I still prefer to keep that off. Plug-in charge is the next setting here. This is related to plugging in your car and having it automatically communicate with the charger and start a charging session. This is something that's going to be rolling out a lot more into the future now that we're kind of coming together on one charging standard, charging protocols. So you'll be able to just plug in, hopefully one day, to any charger and it will just automatically initiate. Hyundai has said they are working on this for stations like Ioniq, which they are part investors in. So I look forward to seeing more of this in the future. If you look under the Hyundai Pay page in your My Hyundai app, you will see that you can add charge point chargers to plug and charge. Hopefully in the near future, it will get to work with Tesla superchargers. This way you don't have to go into the Tesla supercharger app. But that's pretty much it for the EV settings. So we will go back home, go back to that next page. We'll skip over setup. We'll come back to that. Phone, pretty straightforward. If you have a phone connected, it will show you a dial pad. It will show you your favorites, your recent calls and everything. If you're using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, you will most likely want to do that through that. Next up is voice memo. If you want to take a memo while you're driving, you can record a quick clip. Hey everybody, it's the Ioniq guy. Click on it. Hey everybody, it's the Ioniq guy. Kind of nifty. If you have a thought that you don't want to forget, you can delete it pretty easily. Valet mode. So I just input a 4-digit password to enter valet mode, as you just saw. And now this kind of limits what a valet can do with the car. It'll show the top speed, the driving time, the driving distance, when the vehicle is turned off and turned back on. So let's just simulate that by just doing a quick little drive, go forward a little bit, go backwards a bit, put it in park, power the car off, power it back on, So you can see it showed vehicle turned off at 10:46. Driving distance under 0.1 miles. So now going to the next page here, you will see Hyundai Pay. So you do have to kind of do that through the My Hyundai app. So there's not really much you can do from the car right here. But next screen is going to be vehicle diagnostics. So it will run a diagnostic check of the car. It says in process. You'll see no issues detected with the TPMS, the BMS, motor control system, airbags, any of that stuff. All systems okay. That is good to see. You'll also notice here on the right side, we are currently in split screen mode. So you can select multiple settings over here. We will go into that in a little bit, but it is pretty useful. You can swipe it away if you'd rather see more of that. And then you can swipe back to bring it in. Next, service maintenance. Click on that. You can see it just tells you how long until your next service, be it time-based or distance-based. You can reset the maintenance notification if you want to. I'm going to not do that. Service link, I am not sure. Okay, that calls Blue Link. Don't want to talk to them. HD radio data. So you can see the Doppler radar if you really want to. So if you zoom out, you can see the green lines represent free-flowing traffic. It will show you kind of what's going on, road work, road closures, that type of thing. Notifications, no notifications. I guess if you get anything related to the car, it will show up in here, or maybe phone calls or whatever. Sports, there you go, sports. I don't watch sports. I'm not a sports person. I really don't care. But if you are interested in sports, you can check them out here. I think it's NBA season right now. I might be wrong, but you can see sports scores, when the next games are. And then the last item here on the last page, online manual. So if you scan this QR code, it will bring up a manual for the car on your phone. That can be really useful if you just want to search for something real quick. The written manual can be a little cumbersome, so that is a nice feature to have. That's pretty much it for all of these. Unfortunately, if you do want to get rid of some of these, you just can't. You have to just move them around and put the things that you don't really care about on the last page if you don't really want to see it. I'm actually going to move sports over there because that's probably going to be the last time I ever open it. So let's backtrack now. Let's go to setup, because this is probably going to be the next thing that you spend the most time in the car. So here you're going to see all the various things you can set up. So we will start with the vehicle. So tons of settings in here, driver assistance. You have a pictogram here, so you can select things based on what part of the car they're related to. So you can click on speed limit. So in the driver display, you can have it bring your speed down if you enter a zone. When the camera sees that the speed limit has gone down, it will lower your car's speed to match that. I personally am not a fan of that. You can also just have it display the speed limit is a little dot over the speed in the cluster, or you can completely turn it off. I like to leave it in warning just so I'm familiar with what the speed limit is in the area. Now, you can also set an offset, so I have it for 10 over before it will start flashing at me. Otherwise, if it's below 10 over, it will just be a solid little red circle. Driver attention warning. So this can be pretty useful. You can have it tell you when the vehicle in front of you at a red light starts to drive off in case you were distracted for a second. Forward attention warning is new, and it utilizes the camera located in this little device here on top of the steering column to monitor your attention visually. So it's looking where your eyes are going, and if you look away for even a little bit too long, it will start screaming at you. So driving safety, you do have forward safety, provides a warning, and vehicle control when a risk of forward collision is detected. Definitely a good thing to leave on. Forward safety warning timing. So you can have it either set to standard or to late. Standard would be alerting you a little sooner. Late would be waiting a little bit longer before it starts slamming on the brakes. I personally leave it on late. Forward cross traffic safety provides a warning and vehicle control when risk of forward cross traffic collision is detected. I think that's a good one to leave on. Forward side safety provides a warning and vehicle control when a risk of forward or side collision is detected. Again, I leave that on. Lane safety automatically assists with steering to help prevent the vehicle from leaving the lane. There's multiple settings here, so you can either just do a quick press of this button, and that would engage lane keeping assist on the highway. Now for lane safety, you need to hold down that button, and that gives you a new icon right there with the car with the 2 white lines next to it. And basically when you're over 40 miles per hour, it will try to keep you in your lane. Again, if you hold the button, that will disable that feature, and then pressing the button once more disables lane keeping assist for highway driving. I personally am not the biggest fan of that feature, so I leave it off. Blind spot view monitor, again, is those cameras that we already looked at. Blind spot safety provides a warning when risk of blind spot collision is detected. I like to leave that on. Safe exit provides a warning and door control when an approaching vehicle is detected in the vehicle's blind spot when exiting the vehicle. Driving convenience, smart cruise control. So you can have it set to your driving style. It will kind of determine that after you drive for a little while. You can set how close or far you want the car to follow the leading car. I like mine to follow pretty close so it doesn't give people too much room to cut in. I want it to react fast when a car gets out of the way to bring it back up to my set speed. And I want it to react quickly when a vehicle does get out of my way to go up to that set speed again. So I like to keep that quick, fast, near, and based on my driving style. So you can completely disable highway drive assist if you don't want to use it. That is adaptive cruise control with lane keeping assist. I don't know why you would want that off to just use regular standard cruise control, but some people might want to do that. So highway lane change assist, when you turn the blinker on and kind of nudge the steering wheel, it will automatically move over into the lane that you were telling it to. It works better than the previous highway drive assist in the 2022 Ioniq 5 that I own, but it's still not any easier than just doing a manual lane change, so I've decided to turn that off. And we already discussed auto highway speed change, where it will sense through the camera system what the new speed limit is and reduce your speed. I turn that off. Parking safety, we already looked at the camera settings. Surround view monitor auto on, so it'll automatically activate this view when you are getting ready to park. I do find that very useful. Parking distance warning auto on, automatically activates parking distance warning when driving at low speeds. I think that's a useful setting. Forward side safety here, basically it won't allow you to drive into something, so I think that's pretty useful. Rear safety, leave that on as well. I think it's only on the limited trim here that it will automatically brake if it does sense you are going to drive into something with the parking sensors. It has already come in handy in my parking garage, so I leave all this on. Next up, drive modes. So this is where it gets pretty cool. So you now have a My Drive mode that you can customize, and if you want to use it, all you have to do is use the drive mode button on the steering wheel to scroll through until you are in My Drive mode. So you can set the motors to be either eco, normal, or sport. I'm going to leave them in normal, and then you can set your steering feel to be normal, which is on the lighter side, to sport, which really tightens it up a little bit. And that's the mode that I prefer, so these are my settings that I like. So next, brake mode selects the brake mode optimized for your driving style. Again, I prefer aggressive braking, so I put it into sport mode. Next up is drive mode change alert. So if you do go into a different drive mode, it will pop up on the right-hand side here with a little kind of image. Actually, I might leave that on. That kind of does look kind of nice. But if you turn that off and change drive modes, it only shows you any changes in the driver display. Next up, climate control eco mode. So if you put the car into eco mode, it will change your climate control settings if you have that engaged. Engaging this will help to decrease energy consumption on your trip. I personally would just rather leave my heating system alone, so I turn that off. But if you do want to be as efficient as possible, put it in eco mode and activate that setting. Now you'll notice here on the left side that when you do go into one of those settings, the rest of them do show up on the left here, so we don't have to go back to this page, we can simply stay in that page and then just scroll down that list. So that's what we will do. Next up is active sound design. So basically what that does is it does create a fake noise in the cabin, which kind of gives you a feel for acceleration that you wouldn't normally get with a very quiet EV. I personally hate this feature, so I leave it off. But if you're into kind of simulated sound, you can go ahead and have it be very aggressive in how much it's changing, or lower it down to a small amount of change, but I'm going to leave it off. Next up is climate. So you have a few settings here. Recirculate air, activate upon washer fluid use. So when you do pull the stalk forward to clean your windshield, you can have it start just recirculating the cabin air so that it doesn't smell so much of the washer fluid in the cabin. And then you can also have it activate recirculation if you go into a tunnel and you don't want to be breathing in a bunch of fumes from ice cars. So under automatic ventilation, automatic dehumidify switches to fresh air ventilation to decrease humidity after an extended use of recirculated air. I think that's a good setting to leave on. And then smart ventilation starts ventilation automatically when the indoor humidity increases and the climate controls are off. Also a good setting, I think, to keep on. Next up, defog defrost options. Activates fresh air ventilation and AC to remove windshield moisture quickly. That does work very well. And then auto defog automatically activates the climate system to prevent the windshield from fogging up. That also works well. I leave both of those settings on. Next up is climate features. So air conditioner auto dry automatically runs the fan after the vehicle is turned off to dry the inside of the air conditioner and prevent mold growth. That sounds like a good thing to keep on. And then here is that climate control eco mode setting again. So next up, seats. Seating easy access. So this is when you turn the car off and open up the door, it will move the seat back if you have electronic seats. It's basically only here on the top trim in the US, but you can have it set to either a small amount to move back to let you out, or an extended setting, which will basically move the seat as far back in the tracks as possible to let you kind of twist your body out of the seat. I don't really need this setting, so I leave it off. Seat position change alert. Basically, if you move the driver's seat, it will come up with a little display and show you kind of what you're doing. I turned that on just because I thought the little animation looked cool. But yeah, if you're not into that, you can turn it off, and then when you move the seat, it will not pop up anymore. So you can see I'm moving it, and now it's not doing it. Next up, lights. So here you can set your ambient lighting in the cabin if you have it. In the US, that's only going to be on XRT and limited, but you can change the brightness. You can select a different color. If you don't like any of those preset colors, you can click on that and then kind of go through and pick whatever color you want. You can press these buttons to kind of shuffle through and then just hit OK. You can also link the color to the drive mode. When in normal mode, it's kind of just a white color. When you go into sport mode, it's red. My drive is purple. Snow mode is kind of like a bluish color, it looks like. And then eco is more of like an ice blue. So if you're into that, you can link it. I personally would prefer to keep it in the color that I like. And then automatically dim the mood lighting and darkened condition. So you can have that setting if you don't want the lights so bright at night. I personally like them to be nice and bright. That's basically it for lighting. So going back a page, you can adjust the one-touch turn signals. So if you just tap the turn signal left or right, you can have it flash 3 times, 5 times, 7 times, or you could just have it do one single flash if you turn that off. And it does actually illuminate the lights in the little animation there. I leave it at 3. Next up, welcome mirror. So select the condition when the exterior mirrors will unfold automatically if you have them. That is on the limited trim here. I'm not sure if it's XRT and SEL. I will put that on the screen right now. Basically, when you walk up to the car, you can choose whether you want the mirrors to unfold when the door unlocks, or if you want it as you approach the car as well. I personally would rather not have it do it unless it's unlocking the doors as well, because I might just be just walking by the car or something. So I don't really want to just use those motors for no reason. So I leave the on driver approach off. Headlight delay, the exterior lighting stays on for 15 seconds after the user turns off the vehicle, exits, and closes the doors. I like to leave that on just so it kind of illuminates the area at night. High beam assist assists in reducing high beam glare, which affects drivers in the oncoming vehicles. So that is your automated high beam system. I personally like that, so I leave that engaged so that I can use it at will. So interior lights always on. You can see right now they're all illuminated. If I turn that off, they do turn off. So I like to leave them lit all the time. But that's it for lights. We'll look at the door. So automatically lock the doors. Select the condition when all doors will lock automatically. We'll click on that. I personally like to have it lock the doors when I shift into drive. You can also just have it when you start to go up in speed. So you could be in drive but sitting still and have the doors still unlocked. Automatically unlock. So this is after you do a drive, you stop and park. So you can have it either unlock the doors and pop out the door handles when you shift it to park, or when you turn the vehicle off. I personally, just for safety reasons, like to leave it as at vehicle off. This way, if I stop and put it in park, somebody couldn't just jump in unless I turn the car off. Or you can turn all that off completely. Turns off the automatic unlocking of all doors. So next, approach unlock. Unlock the doors automatically when the smart key is near the vehicle. So this works with digital key 2. This also works with the standard key fob. So as you approach the car, it will automatically unlock the doors. Next setting, 2 press unlock. Unlocks all doors when the unlock button is pressed twice. I believe this works with the key fob or with the button on the door. So I just leave that off because it's not something I would really use. Next up is power liftgate. The power liftgate button can be used to automatically open, close the liftgate. Obviously, I want to use the power liftgate. I have it and I'm paying for it. So I have it set to open fast, but there are 2 speeds, normal and fast. I will show comparisons of the 2 on the screen. Power liftgate opening height, you can change that here. I personally have to have it set manually by holding down the trunk button in that area, because we have low ceilings in our parking garage, and if I don't have it set to a custom setting, it will hit the drop ceiling. So that's why it says user height setting. And press close button for 3 seconds at proper height of liftgate. You can just pull the liftgate to whatever level you want it to before holding for 3 seconds to set that. Smart liftgate is when you approach the car with the fob and you stand behind the car for several seconds. It will beep, I believe, 4 times, and then it will automatically open the tailgate. This is useful if your hands are full, you don't want to put stuff down on the ground. And then open windows remotely disables the ability to open the windows remotely. So you can do that with the key fob. If you hold the unlock button for several seconds, it will roll down all the windows. Unfortunately, there's no way to roll them back up remotely. That is just a safety function. It doesn't want somebody getting crushed in the window. But you can do that on a hot day if you want to ventilate the car. Next up, digital keys. So I will go over this in a future video, but basically you can use your smartphone as a key. This car has digital key 2, which means it uses ultra wideband technology. Works really well. You don't have to hold your phone up to the door handle like you used to with the previous Ioniq 5s. It's all just kind of working just like a normal key fob at this point. You get in with your phone or your Apple Watch. You just get in with your phone or your Apple Watch and it just turns on the car. It's actually pretty slick, but we'll talk about that in a future video and how to set that up. You can see here I have my iPhone set. You can delete it. You can easily share keys with loved ones or friends or whoever if you want them to just be able to get into your car for some reason. So lastly here is going to be convenience. So there's a few settings in here. Rear occupant alert. If you have kids and you want to be alerted to check the back seat to make sure they're not in the car, you can turn that on. I don't have kids, so I leave that off because I just don't want to have to hear another ding. Next is service interval. So it displays an alert when a specified service interval is reached. You can reset it, you can disable it, whatever you choose to do here. If you click on distance, you can input a certain distance that you want it to alert you if you want to rotate your tires every 5,000 miles or something, or you can do it by time-based. Next up is going to be the wireless charging system for mobile devices. You have a Qi wireless charging pad here. So you can either turn it on or turn it off, whether you want to use it or not. I don't know why you wouldn't want to use it, but you have that option. Now, there's a couple of settings here for how you want the LED indicator at the top to illuminate. So type 1, the LED indicator illuminates when charging starts. Once fully charged, the LED indicator changes to a different color. And type 2, the LED turn on sequentially with the movement indicating charging. Once fully charged, the movement stops and the entire LED area is illuminated with those green LEDs. And last but not least here in convenience is auto rear wiper. So now that you have a rear wiper and you shift into reverse, you can have it wipe the rear windscreen so you can actually see out if it's snowing or if it's raining or whatever. So going back out now to the setup screen, we've already gone through EV settings, so we don't need to go through that. Navigation settings we will go over in a separate video because there's a lot to talk about here. Sound settings, pretty straightforward. Here with the Bose system, you have dynamic speed compensation, which monitors the vehicle's speed and automatically adjusts aspects of the music to ensure a consistent listening experience. And then next is startup maximum volume limit. So if you have your sound cranked up and you turn the car off and come back to it, you can have it either start at a lower volume or return to its existing volume. Position, pretty straightforward, just like in any car, you choose the position that you want the sound to be centered. Tone, you can set your tone settings. Here's where you can set your guidance volumes, the beep volume, alert volumes, the navigation guidance.
Will be at this volume.
I personally like to have it pretty low. Navigation alerts, voice prompts.
Guidance will be at this volume.
Ooh, too loud. Pretty much any volume for your guidance is located right there. Radio noise, if you're listening to FM radio, it somehow balances the original FM sound with some reduction of the background noise. Driver assistance warning volumes right here. So if you want them really loud, or you can turn them off completely. I kind of just keep them off because now you have a haptic steering wheel. So in the steering wheel, you can feel when it's warning you about something. So I have it set to just haptic. Forward attention warning sound. Again, works in tandem with that front-facing camera. So I leave that off because I think it's really annoying, but you might want that on. Driving safety priority lowers all other audio volumes when the driving safety system sounds a warning. You can either turn that off or on. I leave it on. Parking safety priority lowers all other audio volumes when the parking assist view is active. So that is going to be your surround view camera system with the sensors for parking. I leave that off. And then down below you have connected devices. So for Apple CarPlay, you can set your media volume, your phone volume, ringtone, all those other things. Device connections is where you will connect your phone to the car. So if you have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto done wirelessly, you can see I have my iPhone as well as my Pixel 9 Pro set up here. You can change the order of them. You can also turn them on and off by pressing that little button right there. You can disable the phone, the media, all sorts of stuff in here. Maybe I'll do a separate video on just wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay since it's such a big deal for people getting these cars now. Bluetooth voice prompts. So when you are setting this up, it will speak to you and tell you how to do everything. You can have it play those or you can have them muted. I think it's kind of nice to have the audio walk you through. Bluetooth system information. So this is what the car will read in your Bluetooth settings on your phone. You can change that to whatever you want. Here under phone projection is where you can set which phones you want to connect for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Voice recognition, you can talk to the car. You can say, "Hey Hyundai," and then it will talk to you. You can tell it to do things. I'll do a separate video talking about all the things you can do with just voice. You can turn that off though if you don't want to be able to say, "Hey Hyundai." The audible prompts here reduces the number of voice recognition prompts. So it's not going to say, "Hey, what do you need to do?" So you can turn that on and then it won't really talk to you as much. So I guess I'll turn that off. So you have a few different ways of setting up your driver display. You have simple mode. Here you can see we are in normal. That's sport mode. You get some red banding around the speedometer there. My drive, snow mode, eco mode. There's not a huge difference between the different modes. Then you can switch over to modern, which looks a little bit different. It's not a huge departure, still kind of those circles. Sport mode, my drive, snow mode, eco mode, and back to normal. It's mostly just the colors. Then you can go into classic, which gives you more of that classic speedometer look. There's sport mode, my drive, snow mode, eco mode, and normal mode. So the reason why when I shift through I see different styles is because it's linked to drive mode. You can also just have it pick a standard one. So if you like the sport version looking with the kind of red tint there, even if you change the drive mode, it just stays in that look. But I personally like to link it to the drive mode, and I do prefer the simple style. I just think it's a very clean looking instrument cluster, so I dig that. You'll also notice that unlike with the previous Ioniq 5, the drive mode button now just scrolls through all of them. So you used to have to hold down this button to get into snow mode. Not anymore. Now it's just a long list that you go right through. I honestly kind of prefer it just being a hold for snow mode because you use it so infrequently. I'd rather be able to go through the 4 settings that I would typically go through and then just hold for snow. Here is how you will set what your screensaver looks like. So you remember we had the clock. I prefer the digital, but you can pick an analog clock if you want to, or you can just have it be a black screen. Now you can also choose split screen here. So remember I was showing you that thing on the side there. You can choose which features you want displayed in there. So you can have the clock, the compass, sports, weather. Map is on by default. You can't change that, but you can move it around, and then you can have charging station information, energy flow, and electricity use. I don't really care to have any of those ones on, so I turn them off. And then it's easier and quicker to just flip through the ones that you actually want to see. Now, under display, you can have it automatically adjust the screen brightness, which I do prefer it to do, so it dims it at night and it makes it brighter during the day. You can also drag and adjust the brightness right here. For the purposes of this video, I leave it bright so that it looks better on camera. Camera settings, display contents, you can have it show the parking distance warning, or you can turn that off. Top view parking guidelines, I think those are helpful. Rear view parking guidelines, I think are also helpful. So I just leave them all on. I'd like to get as much information as possible when trying to park. And then you have a blue light filter. So at night you can have it kind of make the screen look a little bit warmer so it's easier on your eyes. I should actually turn that feature on. I did forget to turn that on when I got the car. You can have it do it automatically, or you can set a specific time that you want it to be on from. But we'll leave it in automatic, and I think I'll turn it down a little bit. We'll leave it at like 3. Now, going into the cluster head-up display settings screen, there's some duplication from the settings here. So if I hit brightness, it brings us back to that screen we were already at before. Cluster theme selection, we already looked at that before. Content selection. This is where you will find a couple warnings that you can have show up on the screen of the car. So displays a pop-up confirming the wiper and lights selected are on. I like to leave that on. Icy road warning, I leave that off. I know that the road might be icy below 39 degrees Fahrenheit. So instead of that dinging every time I get in the car, I just leave that off. Blind spot view monitor is basically when you activate your turn signals, you get the little screen there that shows the camera view down the side of whichever direction you're trying to move. I think that's actually a pretty useful feature, so I leave that on. I know a lot of you really like that feature as well. And then the head-up display, I will grab the camera so you guys can see that. So automatically save HUD height and rotation settings. So you can, let's see if you can see adjusting the height. You can see the image moving up and down there. So I have it set for my height at 6'2", and you can also rotate it, I guess if you have crooked eyes or something, but it is useful that you can adjust that. And you can see a numeric value associated with whatever setting you were having it changed to. And then you can pick some of the things that you want to see in the head-up display, so turn-by-turn navigations. If you use Apple CarPlay and you use Apple Maps, you will get the navigation instructions in the HUD. Google Maps and Google Waze do not work if you use Apple CarPlay, but if you use an Android phone with wireless Android Auto, you will get turn-by-turn navigations in the HUD. So you have to use whatever is being offered from the company that makes your phone, or the phone's operating system, I should say. You can see media information like the track that's playing, call information, and then driving assistance information, blind spot safety information. All of that will be displayed in the head-up display. So I just leave it all on because I want to see it all. Data network screen is where you can enable your Wi-Fi hotspot. The car does come with a free trial. I think it's 30 days. I don't personally think I would ever use it. I would just make a hotspot with my phone, but I believe if you are using wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, that you can't create a hotspot, so it's one or the other. So maybe that's why they offer it. And then you have some Blue Link settings here. You can reconfigure, I guess, get details on your subscription, but it just wants you to call, and then information about the modem. Last but not least, the general page. This is where you would perform a USB update, or you would also find over-the-air updates for the car. So you can see the firmware version, OTA update. It just says capable right now, shows the platform. System information, storage, infotainment system update. No update information is available. Vehicle system update, nothing there. Date and time, set the time automatically based on GPS. Unfortunately, it doesn't automatically do daylight savings time, so you do still have to do that manually. You can change to a 24-hour time format if you want to. Pick your language, pick your keyboard, how you would like that to be laid out. Automatic voice dictation. Voice dictation is automatically activated when entering the keyboard screen. So if you just want to be able to talk to the car when you open up the keyboard, you can do that as well. But other than that, that's pretty much all the settings of the car that you can customize yourself. Again, I will go over some of them in dedicated videos because I think they're going to be things that people just search for more often. So I'd like to have a video just for them. So anyway, guys, I hope you liked today's video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Check out my store at ioniqguy.com for accessories for your Hyundai, Kia, or Genesis EV. I've got a bunch of new accessories for the 2025 Ioniq 5, so be sure to check those out. The walkaway door lock, cup holder enlargers, magnetic eyewear holders, charging light indicator covers. Pretty much everything I had for the old Ioniq 5 is here for the 2025. Consider becoming a channel member for as little as 99 cents per month. For $3 per month, you can gain early access to all of my videos before they're publicly released here on the channel. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody.